Welcome back for more dodgeball action. Terry Thrasher here with Michael Laziak one more time. At least one more time.
All right, made the cut. Thank you for having me once again.
And yeah, we've got another match, as we were saying before, with some strong teams. We got Elite DC in the black and orange, and on the far side, from where we sit at least, it's Future in the black and a few other colors.
Yeah, we have two very strong teams here. I mean, DC Elite, you've got, like we were talking about before, every one of these players was on Team Canada last year, except for Guy Armsden, who was the national champion, so loaded with talent. And at the same time, we have Future. Future has been expanding their repertoire a little bit, playing in tournaments all over Canada and even into the States. These guys are a weapon. Do you have any idea, are they, how did they get together? Were they a volleyball team before? Do you have any background on that?
Oh, I'm not sure. And it's interesting because I think we remember in like 2017, the Alberta teams, I don't know how many of these guys were on those teams, and they've come so far in just a few years of competition. So I feel like their cohesion is really solid. If they have been a team before in some other sport even, that would make sense to me.
It would make a lot of sense, and it seems like they've taken to dodgeball so quickly. Like you said, 2017, they kind of appeared out of nowhere, played in the Alberta national champion or provincial championships, and I remember we had a group chat with Rampage. We were watching this Alberta championship, and I messaged the guys in the semifinals, I think, and I was like, you guys have to see this Future team. Like, these guys are good now, and they're only going to get better. And what stood out to me was that I've never seen them before. Their pump fakes were immaculate. These big, strong pump fakes, all coordinated. And they all threw with movements, right? They had curveballs, and that's usually not something you see guys doing until they've been in the sport for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, a lot of players who've been able to have a lot of success at more recreational levels or like other kinds of competition. A good fastball is super important, but it might be good enough to get the job done for a long time. Then you start playing people who you can never catch unawares, or they're just really, really strong blockers, and those straight shots are easy fodder for them. And now you have to build a tool set that can deal with that too.
Totally, and you're right, and having the ability to throw the curveball messes up their timing, you know, it messes up where they're trying to block. That's really a great way to take to the next level.
But I also find people want to throw the curveball sometimes before they have the fastball, and I do think you need the good, strong fastball first.
I agree. I think you do need the fastball as well.
And Stephen Chatterton out there, one of those players, I'm not sure if he really throws a curveball. I think he just sticks to good fundamentals when he's out there and just makes that straight ahead shot work with power and good decision making.
I think you're right. If he does have a curveball, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
He's the kind of, he's one of those guys, you know, I don't think he needs it. He's got a great accurate throw. You know he can catch, and he's one of those guys who's a terrific teammate. You know, he automatically makes everyone around him better. He's gonna sweep for you. He's gonna get you balls. He's gonna survive. He's gonna make a catch or two, and he's gonna set you up on offense. He's just a guy you love to see on your team. You hate to see him on the other team.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of playing in Dodgeball Toronto with him last season, and on top of all the things you said, he's also very generous with constructive feedback. And he did face tough odds there against like most of the Future squad, but just to continue that point, he's very good with constructive feedback. If he knows you're open to it, he will deliver it in a just like concise and friendly way. And it's interesting, when I started playing Dodgeball, he was one of the people who, just watching his neutral face, I was like, oh, it seems he's upset at what happened. Yeah. But he's not upset at what happened. Just a classic example of resting cranky face, I guess.
That's a good way to put it, and you're totally right. He looks like a guy who's mean. He looks like a guy who's gonna beat you up after the game, but he's one of the nicest guys. And I like hearing that he's good with constructive feedback. I mean, yeah, just another testament to the kind of teammate this guy is.
And I think a lot of top teams, they've got that chemistry worked out. I think Elite's been building that as they've been intact for about a year and a half now, trying to build this particular mix of people. Dongan on this team, after having been on Northern Touch forever, he's branching out a bit now.
Yeah, a little bit surprised to see that when it happened, but the more I thought about it, the more it makes sense. He's a competitive guy. You know, must have been looking for a change. I mean, Northern Touch is one of the longest standing teams in the sport. They've been around since trampoline dodgeball. I mean, they've been around at least 11, 12 years, and they're still a competitive team. And maybe Dongan looking for something different, but you can tell that with Elite, they've given him a huge role. He's a big part of their offense. He's usually one of their wingers, and he's been doing well for them. There he gets a kill right there. Now one on 3. It's going to be a tall order.
Yeah. Elite able to get a couple of outs in that last scramble, but Future doing so well at staying alive. They've got some excellent blocking, excellent movement on their dodging. We're seeing them just move, like commit to some kind of move, and with that timing you talked about before. Good staggered timing of the fakes and throws.
You know what? You're right. They do move a lot, and most teams, you know, you have a few guys who are quick and agile, move left and right and up and down a lot. It's pretty rare when everyone on your team does it this well.
And I also like they even have some of the fakes and some of the releases are a mix of like overhand, 3/4 arm angles, and side arms. And that kind of just adds another extra little layer. Dongan getting a hit though, and not able to block that incoming shot just before he could get properly into that defensive setup.
So you see Coach Mark Zarabi talking a lot about on the sidelines. What do you think he brings to this Future team?
A red shirt. Well, he's pretty experienced too. I mean, you've played with Mark quite a bit on Rampage and Crunch in the old co-ed tournament days. I think Mark does approach the game in a way that's a little bit aggressive at times. And I think he really believes in the talent on the team. I heard him saying to his team at one point, hey, we gave them that point. They didn't earn it from us. So I think he really wants his teams to play in a way that lets them set the tempo.
Okay.
And I think as well, I mean, Mark obviously brings, I still think Toronto is basically the dodgeball crucible of the main crucible in Ontario. And so Alberta is developing extremely well. And they have their own skill sets, of course. But I think for them, it's probably nice to benefit from somebody who's seen so much as Mark has in this Toronto area, and with some involvement in the national program.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's always good to have new perspectives. I'm interested to see how his leadership style does with this team. I know he's been with them for, I don't know, maybe close to a year now.
Yep, I think that's right. He's been, seen him post to Instagram from out in Alberta a few times. I think he's very friendly with the Baiters, among other folks out there.
Nice. Got Mike Koo playing left wing for this Future team. He was a Team Canada athlete last year. Strong throw, quick release, and he's a guy that's he's patient and can make grabs.
Yeah, Wong doing a great job tracking down a ball off a couple of pop-ups. Oh, but Elite not willing to let that deter them as they just keep that pressure up and they connect a few times.
Estabrooks is a guy I think if you're Elite, you've got to keep him going. You know, certain guys you want to keep hot, you want to get him cold. I think the offense for Elite has got to run through Kalen.
Yeah, in terms of arm talent, he's one of the best in this tournament. And so trying to, not to say obviously that there are any slouches on that Elite team, of course, but I think when you have such a special talent as Estabrooks' arm, one way to play sometimes is play in a way that's going to give him space to use it as often as he can.
Right.
And that ball is assaulting the production staff.
That's right. You want him to feel like he has some freedom on the court, that he can be creative, that he can go a little bit outside of the box if he needs to. You don't want to try to box him in.
All right, now after a bunch of scrambly play, Elite did lose a couple. So Dongan and Sakura out there for Elite. Oh, well-placed shot just under the blocker, and Dongan heads out.
To beat a guy who's holding two balls, no matter who he is, that's always a tough shot. Dongan was in a great position. It was just a perfect throw.
And Joshua Sakura, Team Canada veteran since, I think, 2017. Out there alone. He's so quick laterally. And we see some good quickness the other way, and they send a shot in. They miss him. He's scrambling around on the ground. Ooh, corrals that ball, just barely avoids going out of bounds.
He's so quick on his feet. One of the best dodgers out there. If I'm Josh in this game, I'm probably thinking I want to hit them both when they're at the attack line.
Yeah. He often does that for Team Canada. If they have one ball and the other side has five, he's often that guy playing out high, very willing to try and force a moment where he thinks that somebody's exposed. Maybe they're drawn too far back on the wind-up. He's very good at spotting those and taking them. And like you said, taking that shot pretty aggressively. And the refs say that was a graze, so I think that's Sean Cheem heading off to the side. Didn't love the call. People never do in those moments, but appreciate that they respect the ref's word and head out.
You know what? When one of your teammates gets called out on a call they don't agree on, when you're the last guy in the court, like you're like in Mike Ku's position, it makes a difference. The body language and the way that your teammate steps off court. If you're upset and you're making a fuss, it sends the message that your teammate doesn't believe in you. You know what I mean? Whereas like I think the guy who's
Ku closes that one out. Sakura getting lifted up by his teammates now. There's some support from teammates.
Love to see it. Love to see it.
And Ku's teammates, of course, celebrating with him. And I agree, there are subtle signals that we can send out sometimes about, you might not mean anything like, I don't believe in my teammate. You might be thinking, hey, it's easier for us if there are two of us against that one player or something like that. But I think you're right. You can, if you're the other person who is on the court, you could take that message away, even if the person heading off didn't intend it. So being mindful about that, one of those little things that can make a difference.
Absolutely. One of the guys I think is the best at that is Jeff Snow. Never upset. I've seen him get called out on, frankly, like some pretty silly calls, but you'd never know it. And when you're on court, you know, your eyes are always forward, but you're kind of subtly listening to what the guys around you are doing and saying. And he's never upset, and it sends the message, you know what, that no matter what happens, he believes in the team is going to win, no matter what, with or without him. So that's, I think, one of the keys to success for that I've had with Jeff.
I mean, you can never tell what's going on in his head, period, based on his facial expressions.
That's
so
right.
Noted for that. Armston absorbs a couple shots. Armston, who's got some really good curveballs as well. Big release and a big throw, but he's also a bit of a big target out there sometimes. I've seen him make a lot of great catches, but
yeah, he has phenomenal hands for a big guy, and that's good to have because, I mean, he is a great arm, and he's a guy that you want to target early because, you know, he's scared with all those curveballs.
And Future getting maybe some insight again. Says Ravi will have some input into target selection since he's so familiar with this elite side. Maybe feeding some of that Future's way. And they're just whittling everybody down. Now it's just Eric Ceruto out there.
I'm going to guess Eric's going to make one of these. He's going to go for a catch now, and I think he's, you know what? Eric Ceruto is a guy I never get tired of talking about. I remember first ever WDBF World Championship was in Malaysia after Hong Kong, which was there's a tournament in Hong Kong, North America versus Hong Kong All-Stars, and the next week was in Malaysia for the first ever World Championship. Our team, Eric Ceruto, Manjeet Ram, Savannah Burton, myself, Dan Vladescu, and David Baird, who was actually from Britain, played with us as well. So it was us six. We went to the finals against a very strong Hong Kong team. And Eric Ceruto, I think at that point he was at the top of his game. And what was remarkable was that he was by far, by a country mile, the best player at that tournament. In the finals, there was one game where he was the last guy standing. He made 4 consecutive catches, one after the other, while each one of his teammates came on, including myself, came on and got hit almost immediately. And we still lost that game in that match. But being able to see that firsthand, his catching ability, absolutely incredible. And you could tell the Hong Kong team is unparalleled to anything they had seen. This was our first time playing with these WDBF foam balls. We've been playing with elephant skin until that time. These balls move a little bit less. Great catch there.
Yeah.
I digress.
An attempt to cover by Elite, not quite able to do it, but yep.
Yeah. Anyways, just a testament to Eric Ceruto's ability and the fact that that was 11 years ago now, and he's still playing and still at a high level, so you got to give him credit.
Yeah, Ceruto, certainly when I started playing competitively, Ceruto, a legend for the catching, and we've still seen it in the national program for many years. And I think he is still active on this elite team, still a threat. I think he's a bit more of a depth player on this team, the way they tend to use him. But we've seen the skill set, and he's often been such a good teammate for people as well.
I think you're exactly right. The leadership he brings and the calmness. A lot of teams get excited, and how can you not, right? You're playing elite talent. It's scary. No one wants to get hit with balls. But when you have a guy like Ceruto who's so calm all the time, who's been to every level of World Championships, who's won at every level he's played at, just to have his presence there, I think makes a big difference.
All right, 3-on-3. Elite still on the hunt for their first point. And they're running low on players. Eng the only one out, but still only facing 4. Sorry, on 1 for Future, who does have 4 points on the board.
I'm going to give the advantage to Ken Ing on this. National champion. The guy's unbelievable, phenomenal. He's so hard to hit. I think he's one of the hardest guys to hit because of how low he gets when he goes for blocks. He's got a good quick release. Not a typical guy you'd consider a catcher, but he does make catches.
Yep.
But I just think just because of how hard he is to hit, and I know because I play against him in practice, or at least I used to all the time, he's a very frustrating guy to throw balls at.
Yep. I think he's got that that skill set of evasiveness down pat. And on the other side, we're going to see Nicholas Hui do the work to try and keep the shutout alive for Future.
So 4-0 game. Elite.
Ooh. Coming close.
Elite is a team that no one underestimates. These guys are good. They know it. Everyone knows it. Down 4-0. What are you seeing? What do you think they need to do to put things in the right direction?
I think they're usually at their best when they're pushing the pace, when they're able to win those scrambles. So I actually think it's hard when the other team's hanging really well with them or even getting the better of them sometimes in those scrambles. And I'm not actually sure whether I think that means Elite should try slowing down sometimes, because I don't think that matches the temperament and the skill set of their team too much. I think that they may just need to find ways to, I don't know, stay calm enough in the scrambles to take advantage of those messy situations. But, you know, and obviously connecting on clean throws like that'll help as Bader heads off to the side.
I think you're right. Sometimes it's just a matter of staying cool-headed, but still getting into those chaotic moments. You don't want to have to avoid the chaos. You want to be able to comfortably navigate it.
Yeah, some teams want to sort of absorb the chaos and settle things down. Some teams want to play in that chaos. And I do think Elite wants to play in that when they're at their best. But they're missing, and I do see sometimes the body language gets a little frustrated a little easily with some of their players. And so I think reining that in, an important part of what the leadership and coaching on that team can do. You know, Ian Randall is over there wearing the ball retriever pinny, acts as coach for this team, sometimes plays on the court as well.
If you didn't say it, I was going to. It's body language on Elite is probably the first place I would start. You can tell what the score is at any time without even looking at the scoreboard, because when they're down, you can see it. Guys are slouching, guys are throwing their hands up, guys are not communicating. I think, you know what, you've got to live or die for each other regardless of the score. I think they've got to communicate a little more. You know what, just keep our heads up. One thing we did well on Rampage when we won our last championship, we had this thing where we would just try to touch as much as possible. Right. Whether we're on court, whether we're in a huddle, we would literally just touch each other's hands, touch each other's arms, because the physical touch, it just reminds everybody, hey, we're in this together, win or lose.
Yep.
I think Elite could maybe use some of that mentality.
Yeah, and whatever works for each team, because that might end up looking a bit different and feeling a bit different on the team, but it isn't just about what's happening in each match. Even if a match is out of reach, and this one with 4 minutes left is essentially out of reach, there's still, if you've got a future as a team together, there are going to be future tournaments, and all of you are going to remember some of those moments from old tournaments and how well you hung together as a crew, how well you supported each other. It's not just about the athletic moments, it's also about some of those emotional moments.
That's exactly it, and I think that's probably even more important than what we think of the big moments, right? Like, sure, winning championships is great, but a decade later, what you're really going to remember is how much fun you had and how much fun it was to, like, go to war with your buddies.
Yeah, and sure it's feeling a little bit uncomfortable for Elite right now. It's Sakura connecting on one, playing with that energy we've seen before. Ceruto did get out somehow. I admit I didn't see it.
He got nicked a little bit.
Okay.
I think his hair. But that's when Josh is at his best, right? He's got a ball. He's at the attack line. You've got those little moments where one of you's got to do something. If you're Josh, I think that's where you're going to succeed most of the time.
Yeah, he knows how to play well when the margin for error is slim. He's a good performer that way. And even now as he's hanging back, we know that he is very energetic, very explosive in his movements, but he does get grazed there. I'm not sure if he's limping a little bit.
I was wondering that myself. It looks like his tempo with his steps is off a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has a prior knee injury, but knowing Dodgeball players, there's always an ACL or MCL problem.
All the joints are under stress all the time, it seems like.
You saw after that last point, Miles and Ken immediately coming over just to pick him up, right? They can tell he's feeling down. He's sort of, my understanding is at least, Josh is sort of their motivational coach, right? He gets guys amped up, gets guys excited, and you can see they want to support him back. So you have to see it.
Sometimes the hype guy on the team needs some hype support from the other teammates. So yeah, I do like to see that support from the team. Also interesting on this team, there are quite a few players playing in long sleeve jerseys, something I find quite uncomfortable, to be totally honest, but.
Yeah, you know what? I don't like the feeling of it. I've never liked it, but I've always found that I've always felt like I play better with long sleeves for some reason. And I've tried analyzing it. Maybe there's something to do with the fact that, my forearm is hidden. Maybe you can't see what kind of, throw I have coming. I don't know. Maybe that's all nonsense, but.
Something's hard to explain. And so Elite's going to try and secure at least 1 point before this ends. They do lose Armston, but Adam Bader hit out as well. Bader, who's done a lot of work for Dodgeball Alberta.
Bader, another Team Canada guy.
Yep. Big arm.
Big arm. You often see him targeted first, and you know what's frustrating for him. But he's targeted first because he's such a big arm, right? It's sort of a compliment. One of my very first great captains, Dave Kuttner, he always used to say, Dodgeball's interesting because the best player on each team doesn't get to play.
Yep.
And that's usually the way it was back then, like you would go all out against the team's best player, take him out, they would take your best player out, and then you would just play dodgeball. Nowadays, everyone's a little bit better. It doesn't quite go that way anymore, but when guys are targeting you first, it's frustrating for sure.
Yep.
But you just have to remember, who they're not targeting?
Yeah, exactly.
All your teammates. You're protecting your teammates indirectly by being the first guy they're throwing at.
And Estabrooks finally has some space to show off how dangerous that arm can be. He's been able to get some kills in this match. And he's just facing Chiam now.
Sean Chiam, he's no slacker. This guy's good, but Kalen's, man, oh man, is Kalen a tough guy to go up against.
Yeah, he lets go with no ball in hand, though, and he's going to have to play on defense with nothing in hand yet. And that one pops up. It's gone. He tries to sneak out a throw before that ball knocks him out, but he's down. And Future securing that last point. Really, really strong performance. I don't think anybody would have guessed it would reach 7-0 in this matchup for either team.
Surprising. Yeah, give it to Future. They came with a plan, and they've executed perfectly. They've been doing very well in those chaotic moments. They're not afraid to die in exchange for taking a life. Kudos to Shade and Mark for coaching, and kudos to all these players. I mean, Future's clearly a weapon in this tournament. Great match with the Mavs earlier. It looks like there's not a lot of teams that can stop these guys. I'm excited to see what happens in playoffs.
Yeah, based on performance so far, you got to think that they are one of those gold medal favorites.
Absolutely.
It finished as a tie, I guess, with Mavericks. Really, really hard-fought matchup that Mavs had to force the tie in sudden death, basically. And now they are looking very dominant against a very strong Ontario team in Elite. They're really putting the talent together with a plan. They've been able to support each other well.
Unbelievable curveball by Guy Armston. Just nicked the outside of Alex Chang, another Team Canada guy.
Yeah, difficult to read those throws from Guy. I wanted to frankify him a little bit there. Estabrooks wants to throw. He's been suppressed well by this Future squad. He steps into that one, but and that one popping away from Lack. Daniel Lalac, another guy, has had some national team experience lately.
Yeah, he's a guy who's in great shape, hard to hit, and just loves to compete.
Yeah, and Estabrooks able to get that final hit, which means they do get one on the board for Elite, but obviously kind of a little too late in this match. But still good for morale. There's more tournament to go. But yeah, give it up for Future. 7-1 victory. I don't think they threw Cody Foley on the court even once either. Not that I recall seeing.
Oh, wow.
Now that I'm thinking about that.
Yeah.
That's another weapon they have, and maybe they can draw on them later.
Might be one of those things, you know, you win a game and you say, hey, let's play it back, same line. And then if you keep rolling, so you keep playing that same line. I know with Rampage and Mavs, there are times when, you know, we've got some of our guys who we think are our best guys, and they start off, we win a game or two, and we say, you know what, just